been doing most of the time in this segment for 3 weeks has been talking about camps and talking about position groups, and I wanted to talk safeties. And there's no question that the safeties were a disaster last year. That's pretty obvious. It was poor tackling, poor communication, poor coverage, poor execution, way too many big plays, teams just going up and down the field. They've made some changes now back there that they think are going to shore some things up. And right now that first unit is Jay Ward and Major Burns. You move Jay Ward back a level from corner to safety. You bring Major Burns in from Georgia. Didn't work out in the recruiting situation. Went to Georgia, decides to come back. Those are going to be your first two. Of course, we're all very familiar with Todd Harris. He's been around for a very long time. We'll see if he can crack in there and get some playing time. And then Sage Ryan is a guy who was obviously very highly thought of coming in on this class, but it looks like he's working a little bit more at the nickel when he's out there, which he has missed some practice time already in camp. So kind of your thoughts on the position group as a whole.
Yeah, probably not as much depth as you would like, but I do like our two starters. I think both of our starters, Jay Ward and Major, I think they're both all SEC candidates. They've been having extremely well camps. Just talking to the defensive back coaches, they're playing well. They know the system well, and I think the system really fits their playing style very well. This 4-2-5 system, you're always going to have really 8 guys in the box, and those safeties are going to be rotating, playing in the alley a lot. So I think Jay Ward has experience doing that, and so does Major. And both of those guys have extreme ball skills. Major catching one-hand picks in practice. Obviously, we've seen the pick sixes Jay Ward had last year. So I think they fit this defense very well. It's just who's going to be backing these guys up. Those are questions that I want to get answered.
So camp's over now. It's now time to get a couple of days off, get back into school. And then you get into game prep for UCLA. By the way, I just drove through campus on the way here. Not the best thing to do time-wise, but it was cool. There's a little life going on. Students are there walking around, people in backpacks. It looks like the real world. But it gave me a little shot of life. I was on the way here looking at that. But if you would go back into camp for me and pick out the person who popped the most for me in all of camp, I would pick Jay Ward. I thought he on the defensive side, Malik Neighbors on the offensive side, had, for my eyes, the most impactful camp. I was not at every single practice for the entirety, and obviously a lot of things can happen over there. But from what I saw, which was probably about 7 hours of practice over 2 weeks, those two guys made the most waves to me. I think that Jay Ward is going to have a great year at safety.
Yeah, I agree. And just talking to one of the assistants, Coach Dwayne Thomas, former player, obviously, he thinks he can be a first-round draft pick, and that's high praise for a guy who really, had his struggles last year, but also had his flash plays as well. But this camp, man, he's really coming to his own. He's really building that confidence that you want a defensive back to have. And like you said, man, he's really been flashing and really being that leader in the secondary that you really need for the Tigers to go where they want to go. So I'm excited to watch Jay this year. I've been looking for him, and he's been making plays, so I think he'll keep that up all fall.
Keaton Berrien says, how's Jordan Tolles looking? He's out there. He's very physically impressive in pads. He's big. He's tall. He's a very good athlete. We know he was a really good basketball player who considered playing here at LSU while he's playing football as well. I do think he's behind the guys we've mentioned right there at the top. I think Todd Harris may go in there before he would, but he would probably be in the second to third wave of safeties. He's still pretty young in his career. The athleticism's eye-popping, but I think there are some guys that have moved ahead of him to this point. How would you assess that?
Yeah. Jordan is just a physical specimen out there. Just watching one-on-one backs against the receivers, the kid is really filled out, and I think he has a little ways to go to really learn this defense and really kind of be with the ones. But he has all the athletic ability. I think he's definitely in the plans for the future for sure.
Yeah, and certainly right there in the present right now, it's the guy who's right there on the depth chart. It's just it's so interesting because that conversation used to be around like, okay, maybe he's a guy who comes in and makes plays in year 3 or 4. And now it seems like if you're not out there immediately, we think, well, transfer. That's just that's immediately what comes into your mind. He's still out there, still working hard. And that's a guy who, has been at practice, has been working. A lot of guys have not. And that's something that I want to talk about in the next segment here as we get back into camp and looking forward, is the guys that haven't been out there. How big a deal is it? That's next on Hunt and Hill.